Welcome to the Viking Age podcast, the official podcast of the VikingAge.com. My name is Chris Schad. I write for Bring Me the News as well as Zone Coverage and Bring Me the News. Joining me is my co-host and managing editor of the Viking Age, Adam Patrick. We do this every Monday and Thursday night right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also available in podcast form on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you can like, comment, share, subscribe, do whatever you need to do so you never miss a new episode. Adam, I see that you're rocking your San Diego Padres hat. So before we get going here, I just want to congratulate you on a team that actually spends money to get a shortstop. Actually, your team spent enough money to get two shortstops, one of which now you're moving to the outfield and may or not be on steroids. But congratulations.
Oh, well, thanks. I had nothing to do with it, and
You called AJ Preller. You're like, hey man, I'm not gonna be a fan anymore.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
this is a total different universe, and I know I totally jumped over you, but I mean, like Twins fans, they're just like, Target Field got built, and there's this group of Twins fans that's just like, this doctrine right here said that the Pohlads would spend money if we built Target Field, and I don't even go to games. And it's like, yeah, bullshit. On a nice sunny day, you're there double fisting beers. But I digress. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, after making the NLCS last year, obviously the Padres owners were like,
Wait. You want a playoff series?
oh yeah, they beat the Dodgers.
What does that feel like?
Yeah,
Wait, no, you won a playoff game.
yeah,
You won a playoff game. You
yeah,
won multiple playoff games.
yeah. They had
Holy
a lot of
shit.
fun. They're like, hey, this is a good time. I think we should keep doing this. So they went out and spent some money. I guess they were in on like Aaron Judge too and Trey Turner. So
What a world.
they've been trying to spend money, and finally Xander Bogaerts was like, yes, I will take your money. So yeah, they got all those dudes. I guess hopefully they'll be able to pitch because they got some batters, but those have shootouts. Those be the greatest show on the diamond, I guess you could call.
They have a big park. I mean, Petco is pretty big, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Did they move in the walls ever?
I think
they
so.
did.
I think they did. Yeah.
But
It's much better now.
nobody
But yeah.
likes to see fly balls or whatever. That's enough baseball talk. It's the middle of December, but the Minnesota Vikings are 10-2, and the Detroit Lions are 5-7. And the Vikings are 1.5-point underdogs to the Lions coming up on Sunday. That is the big topic. That is our first topic of the day. The Vikings have won 9 of their past 10 games, and that includes wins over the Dolphins, Bills, and Jets, who are all in the playoff race. And they also beat the Patriots and Commanders, who are in the 8th seed in their respective conferences right now. The Lions, as I mentioned, they're 5-7. They've won 4 of their past 5 games, so good for Dan Campbell. But they have wins over the Packers, Bears, Giants, and Jaguars, which I don't know. So I'm just going to ask you straight up. Does this make any sense to you that the Vikings are not favored?
I think at first it didn't, but then when you kind of dig deeper and you understand what the odds makers are trying to do, it makes a bunch of sense because they're just basically trying to make sure they don't lose money, which is basically what they do with every line. They want people to bet a certain way, and right now they want people to bet on the Lions, and they're going to hope that either the Vikings win or the Lions don't cover. And the Vikings just play really close games. Their last 9 of their games this year have been 1-score games. So the Lions are going to be close no matter what, pretty much every week. And then the Lions and Vikings play close games. 3 of their last 4 games have been decided by 2 points. The last game earlier this year was decided by 4 points. So Vegas is just trying to make sure they don't lose money on this game. Last time the Lions got a win by more than 2 points over the Vikings was 2017. So, if you think the Lions are going to win, that's fine, but you better hope that they win by, more than a point. And that's something that Vegas is hoping doesn't happen. But yeah, I'm not surprised if you go to other analytic sites like 538, they still have the Vikings with like a 61% chance to win. If you go to ESPN's like matchup predictor, the Vikings are still have like a 57, 56% chance to win. So people still think the Vikings are going to win. It's just the odds makers are just trying to make sure they they have the advantage over bettors, which is what they do, and they're smart, and this is why they're good at what they do. And yeah, I don't I've learned to not really care about odds over the years because a lot of times they don't make sense, but they make sense to the people who make them. So it's kind of uh, a lot of people can look at the line and be like, "Oh my god, the Vikings are underdogs," and it's like not really. Like in Vegas they are. Uh, Also with Vegas, not a real world. Like go to Vegas, it's like this fake place that's not even real. Um, but yeah, I'm not worried or anything that they're not favored or anything. Because we've seen plenty of times where the Vikings have been favored by like 13, 14 points, and they get beat. So it is what it is. But the Vikings are still you know technically the team that everyone thinks is going to win. So
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember who the Twins representative was at the draft lottery, but he said, the Twins were 13th going into that lottery, and they moved into the top five. And before that happened, whoever their representative was like, I had a feeling we would move into the top six or whatever it is. But that's the same feeling that gets large casinos built in Vegas. And that applies here. I mean, if I'm a gambler, and I am to a point, I'm not a very good gambler, but I like to gamble. I like to dabble in that every now and then. But as 1.5 point underdogs, like my rule of thumb with the Vikings this season is that if it's over one score, bet, hammer it, because damn well it's going to be within one score. And Vegas knows this too.
Mhm.
Like if it's within one score, don't touch it. Don't
Mhm.
touch it at all. And I have a hard time arguing about lines because the last time we did this, Dallas was coming into US Bank Stadium and they were favored by 1.5 and they
Mhm.
won 40-3.
Mhm.
So I don't really know, why. I think maybe an idea might have to do with, you mentioned a little bit, Dan Campbell's history against the Vikings, because he's made them sweat like you're listening to a Metallica album on full blast. September 2021, the Vikings blew a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. Kirk Cousins had to lead a drive, and Greg Joseph had to boot through a 54-yarder to win the game.
That
And,
was the Zimmer
that's the
Cousins
Zimmer's gonna get
interaction.
the fight, or
Mhm.
well, the fight. I don't know if it was a fight or
Mhm.
maybe
It was
challenging, or
it was
like Zimmer thought it was a fight.
I think Zimmer wanted to
He wanted to
fight.
go. He wanted Cousins in a back alley. Like, let's go, MFer. Let's go meet you in a back alley and we'll throw hands.
Mhm.
December 2021, the Vikings go down 20-6 at halftime. This is their last visit to Detroit. They take a late lead, but then they allow a walk-off touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown because Cameron Dancer was playing in the middle of the end zone, but
Yeah.
you just need to break the plane
Yeah.
to the end
Yeah.
zone in order
Yep,
to,
yep, 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 yep.
score a touchdown. So that was no good. That was actually Dan Campbell's first career win, by the way, as a head coach. So the Vikings definitely in the gift of giving last holiday season. That game also, if we're relaying this to Mike Zimmer, I believe that was the week after Mike Zimmer had his infamous PowerPoint where he listed everything that wasn't his fault. We've come a long way as Vikings since
Mhm.
then. But September 2022, that was earlier, the Lions had a 14-point lead twice. The
Yeah.
Vikings came back and won because Dan Campbell didn't go for it for the sixth time on fourth down or whatever. And the Vikings wound up winning. Dan Campbell has actually talked about that decision like,
Yeah.
oh, man, it's going to haunt me the rest of my life, which of course it is. It's Dan Campbell. Like he's just, he's pounding double venties and I don't know, he's doing lines in the locker room. Like if I'm a Detroit Lions player, my coach like does cocaine before the game, I'd want to run through a wall too. Granted, I'm like the Kool-Aid man sometimes with my energy, just naturally, but like just like coach is really into this. Let's go kick some ass. Like
Yeah.
he's like tweaking right now. You think this history has anything to do with the line?
Oh yeah, it always does. That's part of the reason why it's close. Like I mentioned, 3 of the last 4 games decided by 2 points. The last one decided by 4. The Lions and Vikings, especially with Dan Campbell in the mix, they play close games. And I expect the same thing to happen on Sunday. I expect the Vikings to pull away, but I think it's going to be close. Division games in general are usually pretty close. Like how often do you see a division opponent get blown out by the other. Like these teams know each other. They see each other twice a year. There's different players always in the mix, but a lot of Harrison Smith's still there. Eric Kendricks, Neil Hunter. They've all played the Lions multiple times. Kirk Cousins pretty good against the Lions actually. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. They've all played the Lions multiple times, and the Lions have seen them multiple times. Now the interesting wrinkle will be T.J. Hawkinson on the other side of the ball. He played against the Vikings this year with the Lions, and now he gets to play against the Lions this year with the Vikings. So that'll be interesting to see what he does. I'm sure he'll have a little extra motivation to be like, hey, you guys let me go. I'm on a better team now, and we're going to win. But yeah, it's going to be close. The Lions play hard. Like, a lot's being made about the Lions winning 4 of the last 5. They've beat one team with a winning record. That's the Giants. The Giants, who have 1 win in their last 5 games. So let's not get too thrilled about that. Then their other win over a team with a winning record this year was over the Commanders in week 2, which was over the Commanders when they had Carson Wentz in there. Not the same team that they are right now. So yeah, Lions, they're winning games that they should win, and they shouldn't win on Sunday. So
It is interesting too, because like there's this thought in my head that's just kind of like, well, good for the Lions. Get it? Like they're in our division.
Yeah.
Like it's so weird. Like nobody here hates the Lions or like Dan Campbell. Like they watch Hard Knocks and you're like, this guy's like the ultimate baby face.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's Homer Simpson running the power plant or like Mike Tice 2.0. Like nobody hates the Lions, and it's super weird, especially since the Vikings need the Lions to lose in order to clinch the division at this point. And they'll do it. It would just be better to get it out of the way. Kirk Cousins talked about that yesterday, how, it's typical Kirk, well, it's just another game, but it'd be nice to get it out of the way. And Kevin O'Connell, it's just like, yeah, it's just another game where, the deep brooding, like, I feel like Kevin O'Connell's got like Batman vibes. You know what I mean? Like when he's out in front of the media, he's like Bruce Wayne, just like super. Not that like, Kevin O'Connell's a vigilante, like whooping the crap out of some guy trying to rob a bank.
We don't know that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, our head coach, he's Batman. Like
he's kind of it'd be kind of hard for him to hide though, because he's pretty tall. He's like 6'4", 6'5".
It is amazing when he takes pictures with like anybody else.
Yeah.
Like you forget he's that tall, and then like you watch like videos and stuff, and you're like, oh, holy shit, he's tall. Like
yeah.
It's like
him and Kwesi's pretty tall too.
Yeah. Him and the Wilfs, like the Wilfs are like, stomach height and like
little
they're
guys,
just towering right over him. And I mean, the Wilfs aren't that small. The other thing that could be contributing to this line is that the Vikings are really banged up right now. 6 players did not practice on Wednesday. Again, we are recording this on Thursday morning or live on YouTube. If you want, thank you for spending lunch with us, by the way. 5 of those players were out due to an illness. Now they have come out and said it is not COVID, which I was kind of
right now.
Yeah, right now at least. Among those 5 were Daniil Hunter, Patrick Peterson, and Harrison Smith. Mm-hmm. Now the Vikings could get Cameron Dantzler back, who returns to the scene of the crime, which I'm sure Chris Boyd will probably like go to the end zone and take a selfie at the crime scene. LOL. Good tweet. Christian Darrisaw also was limited as he works his way back from a concussion. But how concerned are you about all of these Viking injuries right now?
I won't be concerned until Friday when they have like actual designations, because we've seen guys get illnesses and stuff. I think Jeff Okudah on the Lions didn't practice yesterday because he had an illness or whatever. Has anybody tested positive for COVID this year? It's funny how that hasn't happened.
They don't do it anymore.
I know they don't. There's no mandatory testing. They might test you if you have symptoms or whatever. So I don't know exactly how it is. But if you do test positive, you still have to miss mandatory 5 days. Because Kirk Cousins did test positive in August?
Yeah, during training camp.
So it still happens, but it for some reason doesn't happen during the season. Just everyone has an illness. Whatever. But yeah, I'm not worried until Friday when it's like doubtful or questionable. Because sometimes you get these 24-hour bugs. Sometimes maybe somebody had some bad food and that happens. But for now, I'm not worried. The game's indoors, so I think that will be helpful as opposed to maybe going to Green Bay this time of year. And you're like sick already. That ain't gonna help you. And I'm sure they'll be pumped with IVs and everything leading up to it if they really are truly sick. But I would expect most of the guys that are out with an illness right now to probably play on Sunday. And if not, yeah, that's gonna be a problem. But we'll know more tomorrow. But yeah, not worried right now. Could be worried, but right now I'm okay.
I'm sweating a little bit thinking of two things. And I mean, I mentioned the first one because like you said, I mean, we haven't heard anybody about getting testing positive for COVID during the
Right.
season. There's no more mandatory testing. And I mean, at this point, they're just going to dismiss it as the sniffles or whatever, just like kind of Green
Oh wait,
Bay
didn't
has
like
done.
Doug Peterson get it one game or Frank Reich? I feel like somebody. It might have been preseason though too. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it mysteriously went away as soon as season started. But getting off of that topic before we get to monetized,
Mhm.
I'm starting to sweat the secondary a little bit. Like
Mhm.
this is a little because I mean Patrick Peters and Harrison Smith. Luke Braun said there's a bit of a flu going around in Minnesota, which I was kind of thinking is kind of humorous for us because this is a Vikings podcast and you're based out of California and I'm in South Dakota. So
And
I
he's
mean
in LA.
we have no all the Viking podcasters were smart enough to be like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Although South Dakota isn't much different from Minnesota weather wise. They've gotten a lot more snow, though. I will
Oh
say
yeah,
that.
I'm sure.
We got bare ground out here, too. I want a little, I'm a guy who likes a little bit of snow for Christmas. Not like, and once Christmas is done, get it out of my sight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had enough snow in my life. I don't need it ever again. But my kids want to
Well,
see it, and I'm
in
like,
Syracuse, careful what you wish for, kids.
yeah,
Like I've seen some like 24-foot snow walls coming to
yeah.
Syracuse,
Oh
but
yeah, nothing.
I mean the secondary, Caleb Evans suffers his third concussion of the year against the Jets last week, which that has me asking a lot of questions,
He's on
especially with
IR now.
yeah, and especially with Darisaw, his little thing. It's kind of like, what are we doing here? Why is he back on
Yeah,
the field with the
yeah,
third concussion?
yeah.
And it seemed like he didn't seem right against the Jets at times either.
Right.
So it was kind of like, were you
When was
putting
the
him out
first one?
there? Or
Because I remember the one
I would
against
assume it
the
was a training
Bills.
camp thing or something.
Yeah, because I don't remember the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
So three's the charm, I guess. Andrew Booth Jr. just never was a thing due to injuries this year. I mean,
no,
it was a knee, it was a quad, it was something else. I don't know if it will be even something else, but whatever. So, I mean, it's almost like we got to put Duke Shelley and Chris Boyd in bubble wrap and protect them at all
do
costs
they
right now
do they sign
because
anybody? You think they'll sign anybody?
I would think so. But I mean, what role are they going to play?
Yeah,
I would assume they would elevate somebody from the practice squad if
yeah.
they need somebody on Sunday, excuse me. And if they do sign somebody that's not good for Peterson Smith's status, but I mean, this is a team that ranks number one in the NFL with 7.1 net yards per attempt allowed. And I mean, we saw it last week. Mike White, Garrett Wilson should have had, what was it, a 75-yard touchdown at the end of the game? He had 162 yards. He could have had a 200-yard day, but I mean, it just didn't happen. I mean, these injuries combined with the passive style that Ed Donatel is playing. And I think like Ed Donatel's defense is all about like not allowing big plays, right? But I mean, when you have injuries, you have players that are not used to playing with each other.
Yeah.
So you run into these situations where players are running free down the field because they don't know the guy's tendency that's playing
Mhm.
on the same side of the field. We saw it in Philadelphia on that Quez Watkins touchdown.
Mhm.
And we almost, I mean, shoot, week one, right? Christian
Mhm.
Watson's right,
Mhm.
wide open, and he drops a pass. That's looking a little scary right now. So, I mean, if there's one area where I'm really sweating, it's in the secondary because, I mean, the Vikings need to find a way to get healthy and they need to find a way to get depth.
Yeah, I'm on Raw St. Brown. If you play fantasy or daily fantasy or whatever, you should be playing him on
Guillotine League, baby. I'm still in it. I'm
on
still in
Sunday.
it.
You should be playing him because he's gonna have a big game if he stays healthy. Because he can get banged up There's a couple of times he's been banged up this year, so that could happen too. But yeah, the middle of the field is wide open when you're playing the Vikings this year for whatever reason, whether it's the linebackers or the safeties or Chandon Sullivan or whatever. Like anytime you just do a little crossing route, it seems to turn into a 30-yard play or more for the other team. And it's like, well, we don't give up big plays that often, like Ed Donatel says. And it's like, well,
What
actually,
did he
you
say?
do.
Yards don't equal points.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, well, they can if
Eventually, they will. You know,
Yes.
I love that they're good in the red zone. They're good on third down. But if you're giving up 50-yard touchdowns, it doesn't matter if you're good in the red zone because those are gonna just put points on the board no matter what. So the Lions they're a good offense, especially with DeAndre Swift expected to be back in there for them. I don't think did he get hurt? I think he got hurt in the first game against the Vikings.
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah,
I think he
he
was limited. Maybe
yeah.
he started and then he.
I think he did really well, like in the
Because
first
Jamal
half.
Williams did the pumps. He did the Hingle McCringleberry and
He's got
he did more than 3 pumps.
he's got 14 touchdowns this year. Jamal Williams. He's got 14 touchdowns already. He could easily get 20 this year. But yeah, the Lions offense is good. And we'll go over like what the Vikings need to do to win later, but I think a big key is going to be keeping that offense off the field because your defense is terrible. The Vikings defense is terrible. They have no pass rush right now because they're only rushing 4 guys, and every offense knows like, hey, just get the ball out quick, and you won't have to deal with that pass rush, which is what pretty much every quarterback is doing because everyone's open anyways, and the Vikings don't blitz. For a team that gives up so many yards, I feel like you should just make it worth it and actually blitz. Like, what? Either do one or the other. Don't play prevent the whole time. But for some reason, Ed Donatello's afraid to send Harrison Smith or Eric Kendricks, guys that are experienced and know what they're doing. He just wants to sit back and let the team do whatever they want, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, the secondary is not good. It's not good. It's not really probably going to get better until next year. So it's going to be something that probably prevents them from doing what they want. You don't think they sign someone like Richard Sherman, right?
I don't think Richard Sherman helps them.
Okay.
That's just it. He's been sitting on the. I mean, I know he's in football shape, but I mean, what is he going to do for the last 2 years? He's been an awful tackler.
Yeah.
So I mean, if that's the problem, I mean, honestly, if their tackling just increased and they got up on the ball carrier, these big plays would be done. But I mean, when the guy can't tackle,
yeah, I think they
what are
missed
you
like
doing?
10 tackles last week. That was bad. They've been pretty good at tackling for the most part this year, but last week they were just I don't know. The Jets had like Vaseline on them or something. They just couldn't catch him. It was bad. But yeah, the
Didn't
secondary.
they do that in Little Giants?
He put Stickum on his hands.
So it was, yeah. I didn't know if they did both. I remember the Stickum thing because he like claps his hands and then he can't like get his hands open.
I don't know if Vaseline. Yeah, I don't remember that part. It might have been something else like Mighty Ducks or something.
Yeah,
those movies all mixed together.
Mighty Ducks, though. You gotta love Mighty.
Hey, how about the Jets wearing those Mighty Ducks jerseys and then losing? How about every team that's like, oh, we're gonna be silly and do Minnesota stuff against the Vikings, and then they lose?
Wait, the Jets wore. Oh, they did. They
came
in wearing stuff. Yeah, they wore the Hawks.
Well, one of them did, and then like Mike White wore.
Maybe that's why, because the Hawks were losers.
I think it was Braxton Berrios wore like the Hawks jersey, and then a couple other guys wore Ducks jerseys. It's like Jets fly together. It's like not a good idea, guys. Not a good idea.
I feel like at times too, this defense lets up. Like like after the Jefferson touchdown last week, like the Zonovan White one, and maybe this is like when you asked me, what did you notice about being in the stadium? And like I'm like, well, beer lines. Well, no, that one of the other things I noticed is like on the Zonovan night one, it seemed like people were just kind of like, all right, yeah, you're getting your yards, yeah, whatever. They didn't seem like they were going full speed to me. Like the Miami Tyreek Hill catch late, or maybe it was Jalen Waddle. They just got like a random 60-yarder mixed in there. And like, it's just kind of like, all right, we're up 2 scores, mail it in. Let's head to the locker room. We just got to kill these last 3 minutes. And it's like, oh, they're moving down the field again. They're not giving up. Like sometimes I feel like this team has a tendency to coast on defense. So I don't
And
know.
offense. You could say offense too, because they get a lead, and then they're like, well, just that's third down. We'll just run the ball, and then it's like, and then 3 possessions later, you're doing all these 3-and-outs. You have no points. You're like, oh, the other team, they're back again.
Yeah.
So like both, you can say that for both sides of the ball.
But anyway, Vikings against Lions. We'll talk about this specifically. The Lions, of course, as we mentioned, are favored by 1.5 points on Sunday. The Vikings will win this game if they do what, Adam?
Oh, I wrote some stuff down for this today, actually. I believe they will. Well, first off, they have to force multiple turnovers because the Lions are 0-4 this season when turning the ball over 2 or more times, and I believe the Vikings are 10-0 this year when they force at least one turnover. Let me double check that real quick. This is great podcasting. Oh, I'm sorry. 10-1. They forced a turnover against the Eagles, but that didn't make a difference. So 10-1 this year when they force a turnover, and the Lions are 0-4 when turning the ball over 2 or more times. So get multiple turnovers. Secondly, place a big emphasis on running the ball. Lions are allowing 5.2 yards per carry this season, second worst in the NFL. Their last 3 games are a little better, 4.7 yards per carry allowed, still 25th in the NFL. And then lastly, get the ball to TJ Hawkinson. Lions are one of the worst teams against tight ends this season, and as they've allowed the second most touchdowns in the league to tight ends this season with 8. And I'm sure TJ Hawkinson is going to want to go into Detroit, get the win. I've already heard, many predictions like if the Vikings win, he's going to get a game ball because Harrison Phillips got one, and Buffalo, Darius Smith got one against the Packers, and things like that. So I think the Vikings are going to target Hawkinson early and often, and I think he should have a big impact on this game.
Everybody gets a game ball with Kevin O'Connell, though. He hands them out like candy after
Yeah.
games.
What do players get extra? Do they get extra money or anything with those? Like, do we know that? I've heard stuff comes out. I've heard somebody telling Kevin O'Connell you got to be careful those come out of your pocket. And then I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Do players get a bonus if they get a game ball? I don't understand.
Friend of the show, or friend of the homer, she hasn't been on this show, maybe someday, but Jesse Pierce said that when Wild players have to do charity stuff, they actually have to buy their jersey and sign it. The Wild doesn't provide a jersey.
What?
From how I understood it. So she said there was one there's one player, she didn't mention the name, but he went down to the hockey lodge to buy his own jersey, and this fan was like, "Oh, buying your own jersey, that's egotistical." And he's like, "It's for charity, you dick."
Yeah, good one, buddy.
So mine is quite simple. The Vikings are going to beat the Lions if they outscore the Lions.
Yeah.
This very John Madden.
That's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the name of the game. Mike Zimmer did not know. It was just hold your opponent to the least amount of points possible. Yeah. Also a bold strategy. It works, but the Detroit Lions are 6th in the NFL with 315 points. They are 7th in the NFL with 6.8 net yards per attempt. I talked about the injuries in the secondary, and I also talked about the Vikings being the number 1 team as far as net yards per attempt. Jared Goff has had great games against the Vikings since coming over. He also had that banger of a game when he was with the Rams against the Vikings. So, Jeff Saturday and the Colts, who we'll see in 2 weeks, the Lions ain't scared, bro. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think the Vikings are going to need to put up points and don't let off the gas. Like I talked about it defensively, it's offensively too at times. It's just all right, run Dalvin for 2 yards 3 straight times and we'll punt. That's Mike Zimmer stuff. Sorry to throw another stray at him, but
we haven't mentioned the Kevin O'Connell and Jared Goff connection because he worked with him for a year in Los Angeles.
That's
so
right.
maybe he can offer the defense some pointers this week.
It didn't work last time they played him, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
The Vikings are going to lose this game if they do what?
I think if Kirk Cousins plays like he did last week, I don't think the Vikings have a chance if he plays like that. He was first. Jets defense is good. Just Jets pass defense is really good. So I'll give him a pass for that. But if he comes out and plays like that on Sunday, Vikings got no chance. The Lions can score points, and you gotta keep pace with them. You got to set the pace. You cannot have 3 or 4 3-and-outs. Like, you got to keep pace, especially indoors. This is going to be a high-scoring game. So the Vikings, they got to make the most of their opportunities, touchdowns over field goals. And then I don't think they can let the Lions get out to like an early 2-possession lead, because I don't know if the Vikings, I don't know if they can come back on the road. I feel like it's going to be a lot harder to do that than if they were home, because I feel like the Ford Field's going to be packed. They've already asked everyone to get there, talking about like this is the game of the year, whatever. So
It's almost adorable, isn't it?
It is. It's
but
like,
they're a tough team. They're a tough team. I will give them that.
and they want to win. They
want
to
yeah.
Send a message. This isn't for really this season. This is for the future. Like, hey, we're here to play. We're gonna be tough. We're gonna be a tough opponent for the next few years, and you have to worry about us. So this is one of their first steps in that direction. They can beat the Vikings, which I don't think they will. But yeah, they got Kirk Cousins cannot play like he did last week, or else the Vikings don't have a chance.
You know what's crazy to me, and this is another kind of off-topic thing, but the Lions have the 3rd overall pick in the draft next year, and that is utterly terrifying as well, because the Matthew Stafford, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, look at the Stafford trade; it worked so well." Like them picks is turning into and they did, but I mean, if they didn't, oh my God, this would be because now it's like. He's wearing a shirt saying F them picks. It's like F them picks.
Yeah,
like,
picks.
Like look at that. Like, you think Denver's really happy with Russell Wilson right now? No. I think Seattle's got the 5th overall pick, and they don't have to take a quarterback. No. Like that's crazy to me. I say the Vikings will lose this game if we see the Jameson Williams game, and he did not play much last week. He was mainly just a special teams gunner. I think missing all of the preseason program and practice really will hinder his development. Yeah. But it only takes one. Yeah. It only takes one play for Jameson Williams to get behind that defense and break it. And I don't know, man. I mean, you can't really say Jameson Williams would have had a big impact on this team. But if Jameson Williams were working his way back on the field, we would be very excited as Viking fans, because Adam Thielen, although he's from Minnesota, congrats on the Man of the Year nod. Thankfully the Vikings this time, they actually paid the guy before making the big Man of the Year video, but that's another conversation for another day.
No.
KJ Osborne, hasn't been much, and Jalen Reagor. I mean, we know about Jalen Reagor. Like, I
guaranteed to win on Sunday.
Yeah, I feel Chris Thomason probably asked that, and he's like, hey, guaranteed to win. Huh? Yeah, totally.
What's he gonna? Yeah, what's he gonna say? Nope, we're gonna lose.
Well, I don't know. It's 50-50. I'm not really feeling great about our odds, but we'll just see what happens. Yeah. No, I mean, Jameson Williams, it takes just one. It takes just one to get behind that defense, and like Christian Watson in week 1, he catches that pass. We are sweating about these trades, and we already are. I mean, Lewis Sween, broken leg. Andrew Booth Jr. didn't do much. Ed Ingram, you can see something there, but I mean, he's leading the league in pressures allowed. There are a lot of bad things with those trades right now, and they could work out in the Vikings' favor down the line. But right now, getting a guy like Jameson Williams, if he was in the Vikings lineup right now, that's a vertical threat. And it's like, oh my God, Justin Jefferson's going to be even more open. And I think that's going to be one of the big things. So if Jameson Williams gets open for a long touchdown, it's going to bring the defense back even further. And it's going to open up things for Amon-Ra St. Brown, the running game, and everything else for the Lions. So don't let Jameson Williams burn you. That's all I'm saying.
I think if Dancer plays, they're going to test him early, see like how good he is coming back and everything. I wouldn't be surprised by that. And I'm not so sure he's going to do that well. So,
yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So yeah, you got a prediction for the game?
What's the?
I know I didn't put it on the. I'm putting it on the spot. I didn't put it on the outline.
let's do 40-36 Vikings.
40-36. I like the shootout projection because I think it is going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 31-30 Vikings.
Oh man.
It's going to go down to the wire. It's going to be
Is anyone going to punt?
Greg Joseph game-winning field goal.
Is anyone going to punt?
Is anyone going to punt? I think the Vikings will because they love to go 3 and out for several stretches at a time. So
But
we'll
at least
see.
their punter kicks it like 70 yards every time, so it's not as bad as it was in the past.
Ryan Wright is doing his best Sheamus impersonation. There's your obligatory wrestling reference. It's just banger after banger after banger on 4th down. Let's wrap things up by talking a little Mike Zimmer news, or maybe news. Mike Zimmer is rumored to be the next defensive coordinator at Colorado. Somebody else came out and said, no, he's not. So there's this huge cloud of confusion there. We do know Deion Sanders is going to Colorado, and he told everyone on the roster, y'all suck, get in the transfer portal. I'm bringing in my guys right now. Let's say Mike Zimmer takes this job. Do you think he'd be a good college coordinator?
Is he good at his job, like football-wise? Yeah. Does he want to deal with college kids and them, transferring when they don't get their way every year? No. I don't think he wants anything to do with college, which is why the report of him going to Colorado has been disputed. I think he'd rather take like a senior defensive position somewhere in the NFL before he goes to college. He loves Deion, great friend of his, helped him out. They've helped each other out. I'd be very surprised if he went to Colorado. I know he went to Jackson State to help him out, but I think that wasn't really like a full-time thing. That was like a part-time, like help you out, come in, do some teaching. I don't think he was even on the sidelines during games. So I don't see him going to college. It would maybe it would be good. Maybe it'd be like, a breath of fresh air for Mike Zimmer to be like, you know what, whatever. Let's have some fun. These kids, let's get this program back in action, and maybe we'll do some things. Maybe, but if I was gonna talk a lot about betting on this show, if I was gonna make a bet, I'd say Mike Zimmer is not going to be coaching anywhere in any role in college.
I look at it. A lot of people say like, "Hey, Mike Zimmer, he didn't want to teach players at the end." Well, hey, look at who he wanted to do. Look at who he had. As far as talent goes, there wasn't a lot of talent really to mold because of the picks that they had made. And B, like you forget that 2017 defense, a lot of guys were molded by Mike Zimmer. You had a young Harrison Smith. You had a Xavier Rhodes. You had Linval Joseph, who came over from the Giants. Like a lot of those guys benefited greatly from having Mike Zimmer there. So if he wanted to be a defensive coordinator, I think it would work great for him. If he did not, if he did the analyst thing, he could still teach. I mean, that's probably better for him. He can come in every once in a while. Travis Hunter, the 5-star cornerback that Deion got from Florida State last year, he should be like attached to the hip, but with Mike Zimmer, in my opinion. It's just like, teach me everything Deion Sanders, like him and Deion. Like I would live in their office. I don't think you can literally live in like a head coach's office in college football.
Oh.
But, I would hang out with Deion as much as possible, tap into his brain.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't see Zimmer going to like the Jackson State thing was fine because it was kind of small and under the radar, but like the microscope's going to be on, especially with Deion as a coach. When you're in with Colorado, they're in what? Are they in the Pac-12?
They're in the Pac-12, well, soon to be Pac-10 again, or 11, because they're getting San Diego.
State. They're getting San Diego State. Probably somebody else. So they'll be Pac-12 still. But yeah, I don't. I'd be surprised because the person who came out and said that he was going to do it was Fitz's dad, Larry Fitzgerald, his dad. And I don't even know he didn't even say like sources or whatever. He was just saying like this is going to happen, and then people with like other reporters were like, no, it's not. And And I saw some other people also be like, he's not doing that. So yeah, but I'm interested to see what Dion can do. I a lot of people have been kind of like not a fan of his introduction to the school and the players and everything. And I'm just like, he's not wrong. Like they were terrible. So like he's coming to do a job and he's like, you guys stink. We got to get better. So like it reminds me of Mike Zimmer, where people were like, "Oh man, he's brutal. He's being mean." I'm like, but he's not wrong. He's telling the truth. Like just because he says it straight to your face doesn't mean it's wrong. So yeah,
Well, and that's college football now. It
yeah,
used to be, even me playing NCAA 14. You think I don't want to cut half the players that are on
right,
there? The
right,
quarterback with like a 48 speed or whatever. Like, no, I don't want that. I want quarterbacks that can run all over the place. Like with the transfer portal, you can basically pick what you want,
yeah,
throw it on your team, and whatever. So it would be foolish for somebody like Dion, who has the pull just because of his name, to go out and get players to go to Colorado. I'm excited to see how he does. I think it'll be short lived, and I don't think it'll do anything with being on the field, because I think he'll get the talent. We'll find out how good of an actual coach he is,
yeah,
because I mean, this is nothing against like HBCU schools, but they don't have the same level of talent that a school like Alabama has or whatever. And
right.
I know Dion got Travis Hunter and some other 4-star receiver, but that's not the norm. Teams,
His son
because
too.
they don't play in like the top level of, like
Yeah,
they have the Celebration Bowl, which is very important to those schools.
yeah,
That is like their national championship. So I believe they're classified as an FCS school, but they just
yeah,
don't play in the FCS tournament.
right.
Jackrabbits hosting Holy Cross on Saturday, by the way,
Oh yeah,
1 versus 8 seed, 2 games away from Frisco, Texas. Um, just in case you were wondering.
oh yeah.
Um, I think there's going to be a recruiting violation at some point. It's just going to be some kind of
Oh, for
nasty,
Dion?
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I think Dion's
I
going to
don't
get it hot.
know.
Why? He's going to say the wrong thing. He's
Well,
going to
yeah,
do the wrong thing, or
I don't
what?
know now
Something.
because the NIL, they could basically get anyone they want and use NIL
Yeah,
as an excuse. So
they could.
I don't it's hard to
USC
get
basically bought Jordan Addison from
yeah,
Pittsburgh.
it's hard to get a recruiting violation now with NIL in there because you can just be like, "Well, I didn't pay him, he did." And they're like, "Well, I guess that's fine." So, I don't know, I'm curious. I think he did well at Jackson State, and that was people are mad because he's like, he's 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 getting this job before other people. It's like he wanted to be a head coach. He didn't want to be an assistant coach. And Jackson State's
Mhm.
like, sure, you can be our head coach. And then he did well. And then Colorado is smart. They know Dion's gonna bring eyes, gonna bring in people to the school. Like everyone's like up in arms that
Colorado needs the attention.
yeah,
They
that
used
Dion
to be a powerhouse back in the
yeah.
day, and now it's
Everyone
just like,
everyone's up in arms that like Dion skipped a line. It's like, yeah, he's Dion. Like there's a reason. Like, he has this personality, he gets like, people are interested in him wherever he goes. It's just how it is, and people are mad about that because they didn't hire, like, some defensive coordinator from Nebraska or something, like, to be their head coach who grinded it out, and it's like, "Listen, college football is about money right now." Not right now. Always has been about money. It's about money more
mhm.
than ever, I would say. And Colorado's trying to get people to go to their school, get people to watch their school, get their football team to go to those big bowl games so they can get that money. They can't even afford to pay Dion right now. He's getting like 4.5 million a season or whatever. And they asked AD, like, can you afford that? And he's like, no, not really. So they need money and they know Dion can bring it in, whether they're successful or not. He's going to have publicity on him. And I'm curious to see. I think Dion has a chance to be successful. I think this is not going to be his last job either. I think he could go on to like Florida State or something like that. I think that's a place he'll eventually end up if they need a new coach because that's where he went to school.
Could he like Dion seems like a guy who's always got a chip on his shoulder, though. They
Yeah,
passed on Dion once,
yeah,
which is understandable because he had no head coaching experience. But I mean, if Florida State, I mean, does he go? Yeah, screw you guys. You didn't hire me last time. Or
Yeah, they give him the right amount of money, and that's the other thing
yeah,
too. Like
that's true.
people are like, "Oh, he abandoned Jackson State, HBCU, said he was going to be there forever," and I'm like, he has a certain lifestyle that he needs to like keep up with. His salary at Jackson State was not going to be enough for that. Like he needed to go somewhere he was going to get paid more. Like all the stuff that Jackson State built, like locker rooms and stuff, that was out of his pocket. So he wasn't, and it really wasn't about like him getting paid. He always said that, but like he's he needs more than what he was getting at Jackson State and Colorado's at right now, and they offered him, and he's like, yeah, I need to take it, and I'm very interested to see. And once again, I have no problem with him being like, you guys suck. We got to get better. Like it is what it is.
Well, I'm going to go mash NCAA 14
Yeah.
now to go tell the rest of my team that they suck
Yeah.
when I take over the Minnesota Gophers. Anyway, thanks for watching. We do this every Monday and Thursday night right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel, but we're also on Spotify and Apple in case you missed us or just want to listen to the show again. He's Adam Patrick. I'm Chris Schad. We'll talk to you on Monday. See you later.